Cathy Brown. So come on up, Cathy Brown.
My first love. I'm 16 years old, and I'm in love with a gorgeous guy with brown silky hair and deep-set eyes. Ron is a lead singer and a guitarist in a rock band. I just melt when he looks at me from the stage. I can't believe he's my boyfriend. And to think my initial attraction was toward his friend. Ron lived close to me. He worked at the same restaurant where I was a waitress, and he would often drive me home from work. And we mostly talked about his friend, the one I had a crush on, until we got to know each other. And the more we got to know each other, the friend seemed to slowly slip away from the focus of the conversation. I find Ron easy to be with. He listens to my ideas and seems interested in what I have to say. I've never experienced this type of sharing before. Maybe because in my family, there are so many trying to be heard. I'm the third oldest of 10 kids. But with Ron, I'm heard, and I hear my own individual voice for the first time. With him, I'm not part of the majority nor the minority. My voice stands on its own. Ron and I talk about everything for hours, especially our dreams. And Ron loves the rock band life, but he'd like to open up a restaurant in northern Michigan, close to where his grandfather has a cabin. And I love this idea because we love the outside, the fresh air and the listening to the winds, rustling through the trees. We had been going out for 6 months, and we decided we were going to take a trip to Mackinac Island. Never been there before. And we fell in love with the island and its history. There's a local legend about 2 Native Americans who were from warring tribes, a running bear and white dove, and their chiefs would not allow them to marry. So one night, they both jumped into the river from opposite sides of the bank, swimming toward each other through whirling waters. And as their hands touched and their lips met, the raging water pulled them down. It said that they found each other in a happy hunting ground, together, forever, for eternity. Ron and I have a new dream. We want to move to Mackinac Island, open up a restaurant on the main strip, and work that for 9 months out of the year, and then for 3 months, we'll just study the history of the islands. I can hardly wait until this dream becomes a reality. It had been a 1.5 years, and then he said it. Will you marry me? 6 months later, we're walking down the aisle together, and I become Cathy Thorla. We're off to the Poconos Mountains with a honeymoon suite with a heart-shaped bed and a jacuzzi. 6 days and 6 nights with everything that I could possibly imagine. Slowly aroused, awakening every morsel. A river of tingling sensations washing over me. The heat, the enticement, the exhilaration, engulfing every fiber of my being, ablaze with desire, euphoria. After 6 glorious days in the mountains of Pennsylvania, we left for Michigan for Ron's grandfather's cabin. It was an old-fashioned type of cabin, set back in the woods next to a lake. And inside the cabin, there was a wood-burning stove, bunk beds, and a wooden kitchen table, all built by his grandfather. It felt like we were on an adventure in the wilderness, as if we were going back 100 years. His grandfather showed up the evening we were there, and Ron and his grandfather sat at the kitchen table and played cards and drank, and drank, and drank. 6 continuous days of they drank every day, all day. I felt like I had been dropped into a bad movie. This isn't the Ron I know. Somebody must have exchanged him for someone else. And then I remembered, an odd reaction his mother had when we said we were getting married. She said, "He's a terrible person. Don't marry him." And I'm like, "Okay. What do you mean?" And she said nothing and walked away. And I'm like, I figured, well, she probably didn't want to lose him. So I married him. You know, I loved him. Once we got back to our apartment, though, the Ron I knew didn't return. He continued to drink and drink and drink. This wasn't the man I knew. Where was the man I fell in love with? After several months, Ron became nasty. He would walk up to me and hit me so hard, I didn't know what did I did wrong. I didn't provoke him, but the bruises, I didn't understand. And the next day, he was so sorry and promised never to do it again. Yet again and again, it continued, and if I could only find a way to get through to him, I believe love conquers all. After these ugly episodes, I would often go to church, sometimes at 2 in.the.morning. And I found comfort in asking God, what should I do? How can I help Ron? A total sense of calm would come over me. Surprised I never told a soul. And yet I never felt alone. This gave me the courage to go back and try to talk to Ron. He was always so sorry. A year later, we were moving into a new apartment. Ever the optimist, I figured, hey, this could be a new start, a new beginning. Once we moved in and Ron went to work, I was all ready to unpack. And I walked through the apartment, and I was struck with a feeling of no hope, hopelessness, and emptiness written on the walls. No sun shining through the window. No dreams ready to burst through. A nothingness, a dismal existence. I understand now. There's no hope for me here. I hear my inner voice saying, leave now. If you stay, you'll lose the spirit within you. I gathered my things, I packed the car, I drove away, leaving Cathy Gorla and continuing forward with Cathy Brown. Thank you.